Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Publicly Buzzed Live on a Tuesday night. I am fresh out of jail. I just got out of the clink less than an hour ago, just in time to come out and do this show. I have words for Elon Musk, pal. I thought it was anything goes out here on Twitter. What the hell's going on? Thank you all for coming in here. Appreciate it. See a full house already. Thank you, Jay, for earlier sending people through the portal. Seen a shitload of likes already out the gate, which is getting us going in the algorithm, which is absolutely amazing. City Kitty, Denise, Laura, Dixie, Mandy, again, Jay, Megsy, Susan, Holly Berry. Go ahead and give you one real quick, Holly. Huh? Get you started early. Got a good night for you guys planned here. We're going to be watching an Ed Kemper interview from 1991. This may be a two-parter. This is an hour and 20-minute interview. I'd imagine we're going to be probably doing a lot of pausing, a lot of talking, and this will probably be a two-parter at least. So it should be, and again, anybody that's familiar with Ed Kemper, maybe you're familiar with him because of the show Mindhunters that was on Netflix, which unfortunately got canceled, which was one of the best fucking news shows period out there. Yes, let's get Holly Berry a beer, everybody. Right now, out the gate, Jay going to start this night off perfectly, giving out 5 memberships. Who got those bad boys? Lakota, P. Fox, Jiggly, Jules, Joanna B, and Nina Marquez. Welcome, everybody. Pass out the beers for all these new members. Love it, love it. Hear that beer crack right there.
Give me the loot, give me the loot.
I'm a bad man. And I do have, next time I see one come through that's for an anniversary, I've got anniversary ones set up as well. And I've got a couple of other ones.
Son of a bitch!
Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. And I still have more sound bites to get. I want to get some Seinfeld, some George Costanza sound bites up in this motherfucker. Yeah, I wish we could. Oh, in Discord. I didn't say you say Discord. In Discord, we could watch Mindhunter in Discord. That would be sweet, Dixie. Yeah, that would be cool. Missy Mayhem, Janet. Yeah, everybody coming through here. Miss Esk. I have many words for Elon. I do too. I thought it was anything goes. Ricky Cougar back popping through here. What's going on, Dan? Thank you, brother. Coming through. Fresh out of the clinker. And Holly Berry going to come through real quick, gifting out 5. What's she doing? Megsy, Shattered Dimensions, Frisia. I butchered that. Tammy Woodruff, yes. And Kristen. Hey, Kristen, what's going on? In here as well. See Kaylin coming through. Wow, we got a full house. Thank you all for coming through here. More beers in the chat. More beers in the chat, everybody. Let's go. And then I've almost forgot. Boom. Thank you, Holly Berry. Out here rocking and rolling, killing it per usual. I'll throw some of those beers in the chat myself. Boom. Rex Bird coming through here. What's going on, brother? Thank you all. Seriously. Halftime. Still got some people coming through here. Love it. Love to see it. As you guys come through, please hit that like. Really helps us out here in the algorithm on YouTube. If you're not subbed up and you're randomly coming through, please sub up. Hit the 3 little dots on the side and make sure all notifications are turned on. That way you get all notifications. That way you get the posts that I'm coming through with on the community. You get the live streams. You get the videos. Hopefully it will alert you when those are going down. Austin Rains coming through here as well. The shirts. Everybody that ordered a dank-ass, whether it be the tie-dye or the acid print shirts, those are about to be happening. Those are really close to being done and should be shipping out, I would honestly predict, next week. So yeah, a lot of cool and interesting things happening here at Publicly Buzzed per usual this week. Rocking and rolling. And again, I'm going to bust out, again, this is a rare interview with Ed Kemper. And if anybody that's not familiar with him, Shannon, coming through here. Hey, sometimes you got to do a little time to fight the truth, and I'll do it, baby. But yeah, anybody that's not familiar with Ed Kemper, you will be after tonight, and you'll probably want to do a little bit more research yourself because he's a very interesting serial killer. If you're tuning in on Murder Church and you're going through the trial with us on Sundays with Jeffrey Dahmer, and I say it often, I say it pretty fairly often that it's a very different case as well with him. As soon as he got caught, he was immediately giving a 60-hour confessional, giving everything up. Ed Kemper is a little bit different in a way that he murdered his grandparents at the age of 15 years old and was put in a mental institution out the gate. He spent he spent time in the mental institution until he was 21 years old. On his 21st birthday, he was actually released into his mother's custody. Him and his mother had a horrible relationship. After he did get out, he, actually tried to live a pretty normal life, but basically he blames when he would murder. He was called the co-ed killer, and he would murder, college age girls. He did murder one 15-year-old girl as well. So one high school girl there, but these murders would happen after he would have these brutal fights with his mother. So he was taking all this out on his mom, and then it all came to a head. He ended up murdering actually 10 people in about a 1-year time period, not counting the grandparents at the age of 15. I think it's 8 people then, because I think counting the grandparents it's 10. So 8 people in about a 1-year period of time. And the last 2 people he killed was his mother and her friend. He would also, this again, trigger warning on all this stuff, ladies and gentlemen, but he would cut up the bodies. He would take the victims back to his house and dismember them. Necrophilia. He was into necrophilia. He would have sex with the bodies. And then he would discard of these as well. So yeah, a very gruesome, insane tale. But it's even crazier. As soon as he killed his mom and her friend, he immediately turned himself into police. And anybody that's watched any interviews with Ed Kemper knows how intelligent he is. He has an extremely high IQ. I think at one point he was actually tested at 136, and I think he had another test that he got 145 on. And when you watch this interview, he becomes extremely likable, but the way he kind of gives you an inside look into the brain of a killer and a guy with impulses like this that can't control them. It's very intriguing and very interesting. A lot of people that end up interviewing him say they like him. They actually use those words. The time that he spent in a mental institution, he, in his own words, he says that he learned a lot of basically tricks, how to fool psychiatrists, and a lot of tricks on how to play games even with people in public, with psychology. Very, very smart and dangerous individual. But yeah, we're going to get into this interview, and I appreciate again everyone for coming through here. And he's fucking huge. Yes, he's 6'9", 300 pounds. Absolutely imposing individual as well. But yeah, again, it's a little bit of a different type of serial killer in the way that he corresponds after the fact, the way he did these interviews and is willing to actually talk about a lot of stuff. Absolutely right, Missy. I will continue to fight the fat power. Anybody that needs to get into the backyard zip lines, there is a link there being dropped by Mandy as well. Very smart man. 145 IQ. Stevie, thank you for popping through here, brother. Appreciate it. Huge. Huge. Dan, thank you as well. So yeah, we're going to jump into this. Again, this may be, Life, Love, and True Crime coming through here. Again, love it, guys. As Elizabeth, let's go, baby. Bring them in. Bring them in. And as we get ready to rock and roll here, again, this will probably be a 2-parter. And we're going to rock and roll. Let's rock. What is Dixie saying here? He reads audiobooks. He is on Audible. You can Google his book list. Yeah, he he's one of the best prisoners in the entire system where he's at in California. He reads to the blind. I think he's only had one infraction in the entire time he's ever been there. He's a very likable guy. It's very weird to even say that out loud. But it's weirdly true. Jamie, thank you for coming through here as well. You're going to see this. And again, you almost have to remind yourself who this individual is, who this guy is, what he has done. Okay. He also talks about how he would pick up many different, so he was fighting these urges and would actually win sometimes. It's interesting to hear him. We're going to get into it, but it's interesting to hear him actually discuss it. He says he'd pick up 150 people and take them to their destination without there being a problem. But the entire time he has them in the car, he's fighting these impulses to lash out and attack these individuals. And then sometimes, unfortunately, it did happen. He is still alive, Shelley. He is still alive. He's in his 70s. I think the last picture that I could find on the internet was from 2020. Yeah, it's a wild one. It's really. It's interesting, I guess is the real word for it. Again, trigger warning. This is a sit-down interview from 1991. This is, again, it's been a while ago. But, yeah, thank you all. And we'll probably discuss it as we go through it as well. And, yeah, appreciate everybody for being here. Thank you all so much. Make sure it got the sound right. Also, let me take off Murder Church there just real quick. Boom, boom. But make sure you're here for Murder Church. Dan was here slightly for Murder Church. It counts. No, Murder Church, 9 a.m. Sunday mornings.
Oui, les tapes en plus.
Mais ils sont dans le fond.
Attention, bouge pas la voiture. Junior, je viens pour tuer.
Yeah, this was with a French interviewer as well.
La preneuse de son. Où se trouve-t-elle? J'aurais dû mettre métal.
Moi aussi. Moi aussi.
Comes. Here this big gawky son of a bitch comes. Look at him.
Hi, I'm Stéphane Bourgoin.
Look at him. He's a monster. So, okay. So the time period that he was doing these killings from 72 to 73, heavy time period of hitchhiking, especially in California, right? He's quoted as saying that he would pick up the nicer looking girls and not the hippies. He didn't like the hippies. He didn't like the way they smelled. This is him saying that. And he would pick up the more nicer looking, his words again, ladies that he's seen hitchhiking. I think he tells this story early on here as well. He had picked up at one point a mom and a child. And he tells, and it's really fascinating to kind of hear, and I didn't watch this entire interview. I kind of skipped through it and would listen to bits and pieces, but he tells the story basically of him fighting the urges the entire time to not kill these folks. Again, it's such an interesting outlook to find, I guess, to have somebody of this intellectual level, who is willing to be this open. Again, he turned himself in. He said he wanted the death penalty, which they don't have where he's at in California. When he turned himself in 73. So I think he got 8 consecutive life sentences, if I'm not mistaken. Concurrent. I think it's concurrent, not consecutive.
I guess I didn't even ask him that. He just proffered the information that he wouldn't hesitate a second to pull the lever on any serial killer, right? And I'm thinking, gee, he just killed me. If you stop and think about it, if I were to have been executed in a timely fashion, they would have had absolutely no input.
Welcome in, everybody.
Their heads about what makes.
Holy shit! I'm gonna pause for Threads and Roses. Welcome in, Threads. How you doing tonight? Hope you're doing good. OG here at Publicly Buzzed, everybody. Yeah, he's a big motherfucker, big bastard. Everybody coming in, thank y'all so much. If you're lurking in the background, hit that like. Help us out here. Appreciate it.
Real murderer tick. Other than the experts all jumping up to give their opinions, which you've been doing for a lot of years, and unfortunately they don't hit too well. They don't have too good of a track record.
I'm not sure whose name. We need to put one specific name down here. Who should we? You feel me?
And would include serial killer, obviously.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
obviously very few of them could if there was
Yes.
only 35 serial killers.
No, they're talking about close to 100 right now.
I was saying that 10
Yeah.
years ago.
That wasn't John
Because
Douglas,
you also have to include, no, I'm saying and his cohorts.
So he's talking about right now, he thinks this is 1991. Think about that there's over 100 serial killers active in the United States at that point. How many do you think are active right now in 2023 just in the United States? I bet the number, if we truly knew it, would be absolutely astronomical and scary as fuck. I mean, yeah. I mean, just to think about that.
Yeah.
They were saying as a unit, the PSU was saying. And having come from that genre, in the having been locked up and through the dregs, and knowing some of those characters and watching how easy it was for me to stumble into what I did. I didn't go into it pre-planned or anything, but I couldn't believe that was a unique act. You know, that no one else could find that out, and that's just one avenue into it. Because, you know, while a lot of people can stereotype the type of criminal that a serial killer would be, society has to loosen up its belt a bit and admit that jailers, like at the Tucker farm down in Arkansas, who get tired of recalcitrant troublemaker inmates, take them out back and kill them and bury them, are serial killers. Different motive. But, so, you know, it's a wide range of...
But anybody that did see Mindhunters knows how important a guy like this is. Absolute piece of shit human being that deserves to be in the place he's at. But at the same time, knowing where he's at and knowing that he is controlled, but still intelligent enough to be able to give information that really only someone like him can relay on to, you know, to detectives, to law enforcement, to psychologists, to psychiatrists, to experts in general. Like his level of knowledge that he can kind of give, again, he's tapping into the very strange impulses of a serial killer's brain that he can do in real time because he's lived it and he's actually tormented by it. You can hear that in the way he talks. I still think that he probably would still have the impulses and maybe not even probably be able to control them if he was out on the street. But he doesn't want that. He's actually tormented by this at the same time. So he can give a very unique perspective, which is fucked up at the same exact breath and thought that I'm saying this, but it's wild. It's wild.
Activities that get included in something like that.
Better word.
They've had that 100 years ago in the Old West, where someone would set up a boarding house and people who came by never left. You know? Whole families, individual travelers, would go on for years before they'd get discovered. But it's things I've read about.
Yeah, and you had H.H. Holmes also in the 1890s stuff. Yeah.
Poisoners, people like that. Are we starting our interview or?
No,
It's like, is this the fucking interview or are we just going to stand here? You going to let me sit down, bud? I don't know how the hell you do it in France, but here in the United States.
Say, oh yes, I'm doing my time and I'm miserable, and they say, good. You know, that's not what it's about.
Huh?
Uh-oh, we're getting serious now. I can tell.
Like he makes jokes?
Tape is rolling.
Could you tell us how long you've been imprisoned?
Excuse me. This month is 18 years that I've actually been in prison.
What were you convicted of?
8 counts of first-degree murder.
And what was your sentence?
7 years to life, CC, that's called concurrent. It means all the sentences run at the same time.
That means they run consecutively?
Oh no, that's the opposite of consecutive.
Yeah.
Consecutive would be one at a time, and of course you can't serve multiple life sentences, but there was some question before my case that whether on the legality of that. So when my case went through, the judge sentenced me to 1 term of 7 to life, which at that time was the maximum non-death penalty, and all to run concurrent at the same time.
In considering your crimes and crime.
That is a really good question, Dan. Are cartel serial killers, or is that just normal? You know, I bet you specific ones would be probably put into that category of serial killer at the end of the day. A lot of that might go into mass murder, I guess, but at the same time, if you're killing people and it's spread out amongst large portions of time, I don't know. He was just kind of breaking it down, but that is still a really good question, Dan.
Done by other serial killers, what do you think society should do in generally with serial killers?
Do with them?
Yes.
It's a difficult question to answer from my point of view because I'm obviously an involved subject. So any answer I would give that would be other than the death penalty would sound very self-serving. I look at people who, on the surface, don't have any redeeming qualities whatsoever. They don't do anything or say anything or behave in any way that would make your average person want to save their life, want to keep them alive, and feed them and house them and clothe them for decades. But when I first came to prison, I had much the same attitude. It was a very defensive attitude, very self-preservative attitude.
Yeah, Kemper was also in the same prison as Charles Manson and another serial killer by the name of Herbert Mullen. Herbert Mullen and him actually sort of overlapped in the same exact area and actually confused police. But Kemper did not like this guy at all. He basically was saying that this guy didn't have was heartless. He would just kill to kill. Let me see. I've got a quote here I'm trying to find right now. Kemper disliked Mullen, saying he killed for no good reason. Kemper recalled, well, Mullen had a habit of singing and bothering people when somebody tried to watch TV, so I threw water on him to shut him up. Then when he was a good boy, I'd give him some peanuts. Herbie liked peanuts. That was effective because pretty soon he asked permission to sing. That's called behavior modification treatment. Ed Kemper is smart as fuck and dangerous as fuck.
Because those immediately about me were very much set on destructive attitudes toward me. So I put up screens, so to speak, to screen out those feelings. Excuse me, and those reactions to me. I'm driving your sound lady crazy here. Over.
Also, when you feel you need to redo an answer, you can do it. You know, it's no
I don't
problem.
have any problem with that now. I understand the problems involved. I had to do a whole interview over once because the lady wouldn't check her audio tape recorder. I kept saying, you better check it and make sure it works first. Oh, I'm sure it works. 2 hours later, we're doing it all over again. She was ready to cry, I'm telling you.
He did.
I guess I could have, but that was where the pen was mightier than the sword, right? The only interview I did back at the time of my case. This is just a little anecdote for you here. But I went through the whole investigation, the whole trial, no interviews with the media.
Bob, thanks for coming through here, brother. But you're right, yeah, man. He's a different one.
One woman who had treated me pretty fairly in the media, she was in this driven toward beating me with the
weird to
newspapers.
say, because I was saying this, but I don't know if you saw that earlier. I said, Bob, I mean, basically a lot of interviewers, after they get done with the interviews with this guy, they come out liking this fella. And I can see why. I didn't watch this in its entirety getting prepared for this, but I did kind of go through, bits and pieces of it. And it's just the way he kind of presents himself and the way that a serial killer thinks, man. It's really invaluable information that he's passing along to the public and, again, to experts it's out there, man. It's crazy.
She tried to do a more in-depth piece around it. And so I did an interview with her before I went to prison. It was the day I was sentenced and I was waiting for the car to prison here. And wait a minute, excuse me. That was where I gave her the interview. Okay, I talked to her just briefly. She came, she was hovering around. I was at the jury room, to the courthouse, talking to my lawyer. He hadn't shown up yet. She was up there talking to the officer that was with me. And we all just had I said, my officer, or my lawyer does not want me talking to the media at all. So quick, I see him coming way down the hall. I said, let's set up a little scenario and act like I'm giving this really incriminating interview that screws everything up, right? And she kind of laughed because it was breaking the tension in the room, you know. So we set up this little scenario, and she's busily acting like she's writing, and I'm talking about all of this harebrained stuff that relates to the case and feelings, and he just starts turning bright red as he gets within hearing range. He's like a big clown, got this huge forehead, hair standing out all over, and now he turns bright red. And he says, "Mattered in a wet hen." And he stomps into the room and slams his briefcase on the desk, and we all start laughing, and he gets really mad. I said, "What are you laughing about?" I said, "This was a setup just for you." I said, "I'm not doing any interviews." But later on,
hold on now. Holly Berry going to roll on through with $2. $2 super sticker. Thank you, Holly. I know you're waiting for one of these bad boys. Boom. I'm still waiting for an anniversary membership to roll through so I can use one of my anniversary sound bites here. So just keep that in mind. I've got a couple others for a special moment in time. But one more time. Thank you, Holly. Appreciate it.
I gave her an interview because she'd treated me so fairly up to that point, and also had she gave me a pen that day. It was a cast aluminum ballpoint pen, and I took it back to my high security jail cell up in Redwood City. I was really slammed down tight. I'm in a two-man cell by myself. They have a camera on me 24 hours a day, a monitor, videotape monitor. The lights are on. It's 2 sets of these 4-footers here. And it's as bright as day, all day long, all night long, 24 hours a day. And I was there for 5 months. And I brought this pen back in. I smuggled it in with me. And I get strip shook leaving the cell. I get strip shook coming back in. And I brought this pen in, and it got in with my legal papers. And a few months later, in the middle of the trial, I smashed the pen on the floor with my boot, sharpened it, got a sharp edge on the metal, and slashed my wrist, and was bleeding all over the place. And it was very messy and very exciting, and everybody was dragging me off to the hospital to get sewed up and all of that. And I got maced, shot up with the industrial strength bottle of mace. They had about a quart of it, and they just gassed me with that whole thing, and dragged me off to the hospital. And I made a quippy comment. I don't think the police translated it properly for the media because they missed it. They'd love, you know how they love to get into puns on broadcast television. They love these little verbal puns and plays with words. And the pen is mightier than the sword. I turned the pen into a sword and cut myself. Both times I attempted suicide. I did it with
He's super proud of himself there, isn't he? He's like, they didn't catch that. I'm a little too smart for them.
Pen, or parts of a pen. And I thought that was kind of interesting, but the media never picked up on that. They were too busy.
Mandy going to come through gifting out a membership, and who's going to get that bad boy? Dan Runningheim's going to get it. Hell yeah. Thank you, Mandy.
Give me the loot. Give me the loot.
Mandy's meme. Also give out them badass beers too. Crack one open. Boom. And you can get a satisfying pour right there on the screen, baby. Right there. Right there. We'll do one more. Wow. Are you kidding me? You kidding me? Yeah, Mandy made a meme, though, of the Zipline dude and me mispronouncing names that was amazing. That had me fucking rolling. Thank you, Mandy. Appreciate that. Them beers in the chat. Beers in the chat. Anytime we get new members, folks, drop them out. Get them beers rolling. Got to crack a few open for them. Invite them the right way.
Being serious.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit. CR going to come right behind it. Going to come right behind it. Kristen Brown is going to get one of them things. Hell yeah. We'll crack another one. Boom. Satisfying pour. You guys know how much I love a satisfying pour. And I will give you a little ODB. A little biggie.
Give me the loot. Give me the loot.
I'm a bad man. And now I see them beers coming out. You guys already know. I don't have to prompt anymore. I just Ed Kempered you motherfuckers. Got you ready for it. Beer's out. Beer's out. Bam. You guys are the best, seriously. Thank y'all so much. Still rolling through. And again, thank you, CR. Boom. CR, again, one of the OGs here at Publicly Buzzed. Been coming through a long-ass time.
But at any rate,
At what point?
once in my life I could see every aspect of my life my crimes, who I was, how I really felt about things, without any defensive or protective accoutrements, was all gone. And it was fascinating to me. I was semi-conscious. Well, actually, I was conscious. I just, I couldn't get up and move around a lot. And at the end of the 2 hours, I didn't want to stop. I wanted to keep on with this. I hadn't gotten to the crimes themselves, the current set of crimes, but I was kind of oriented around other things related to my life. And I asked to continue on. The doctor didn't want to, so I insisted. So they were using an IV, and they shot me up with another 2-hour batch of this stuff. And as soon as he was done with what he wanted to do, he got up and left. He had an appointment. It had gone longer than he planned on it. He had to leave. My lawyer had to go. So I'm stuck with these 2 deputies and a registered nurse watching me until I come down off of this stuff. Well, when the doctor left, he decided to give me a shot of medicine to snap me out of this, is the way he put it. And I asked him what it was, and he said it was methadone. Hospital-grade methadone, speed. And I've asked doctors since then, both medical doctors and psychiatrists, if that was an appropriate action, and they said absolutely not. They should have let me sleep it off. Just let it course through my body and let it go away. By amplifying with the methadone, it is suggested that the doctor knew full well it would put me through hell. It amplified everything I was feeling. It got me really drove, and for 2 days after that, they were trying to scrape me off the ceiling. They couldn't even talk to me. I was raving, I was ranting, they had to put me in a strip cell. I wouldn't.
Wow. Threads and Roses is going to come in here with a $4.99 super sticker. Thank you very much, Threads and Roses. Love it, baby.
Give me the loot. Give me the loot.
Love it. Hell yeah.
Son of a bitch!
Boom! Got a party going on here in the chat. Thank you, Bob, for hanging out here tonight as well. Appreciate it. Invaluable information coming through, per usual, from Bob Mata. Also got my brother Ricky Cougar back hanging out here as well. And I guess we're going to have to get everyone together to go on a zipline venture. We're going to have to figure out what's the closest destination to all of our points on planet Earth, and then whatever is the closest in the middle for us to merge together will be that spot. We've all got to get together for a nice zipline vacay day.
And go back to my regular cell. I refused because there was television available there. I had a canteen. I had some food items in my house. I wouldn't accept it. And I went to a strip cell 2 cells down where all I had was a mattress over a hole in the floor. And I was just on and on 24 hours a day. The convicts and the criminals in the back that were locked up with me, they were in the tank. I mean, we were talking very casually about different things and had fairly good relationships. And I put them all on what we call Front Street. I exposed all of them to all of the negative sides of our relationships and called them all kinds of cowards and punks and this and that and the other because they were even talking to me. And that was when I made the statement that I should be hung upside down on the bars and beaten daily, right, for what I did. Because under the influence of those drugs, I was seeing what I did through other people's eyes. Not through mine. I won't say through other specific person's eyes, but as someone else would view it. Pure horror. Someone that had nothing to do with violence in their life would see it. I was completely unprotected, and that was an awful experience. And within hours of coming down off of that stuff, 2 days later, you know, I wasn't making comments like that. The defenses were back in place. They were a bit ruffled. It had been an eye-opening experience because it gave me something I'll never forget, you know, some perspectives on my case that I'll never forget, some anxieties on my case I'll never forget. And all I can give you to gauge it by is that when I went into that hospital, the nurse came out, and she was the typical battle axe professional nurse, been on the job 20 years, great woman with the wheelchair, severe stern face, and she's looking at me with razor blades. She could just dice me up in a second without thinking about it. She's really having fits. You know, I'm in the chair, she wheels me inside. 5 hours
Mexico,
later
baby.
when I come out of there, you know.
Dude, yeah, Bob. 6'9", 300 pounds. An imposing individual. Like, fucking massive. Yeah, when this first started, it showed him walking, you know, down, or, you know, out, and next to the French interviewer here, and he just was just towering over this guy. Yeah. I'm sure, you know, I know that he's bigger than Rex Heuermann, but again, probably picking petite, smaller women, knew exactly what he was fucking doing.
She's wheeling me out, and as I'm getting into the car, I got this tortured look on my face. I've been crying, I've been tearing at myself, and she looks at me with this very compassionate look, and she says, good luck. Because she got a good look at what was really inside. She was already aware of the evil I was capable of, and the horror that had happened in the case, and now she saw a lot of my real feelings. And in her knowledge of chemicals and medicine and treatments and all of that, she knew I wasn't faking. And from her, I got a good luck, you know, and she was serious. Never seen her since, but then ironically, the deputies that were stuck with me that day, trying to wait out this fit I was having, this rage, because they hadn't anticipated that. But they just tried to figure, well, we'll keep, he's so outraged right now, he's so drove, let's just keep him here until he calms down a bit, and then we'll take him back to jail. But I didn't calm down. It just kept going on and on and on and on. And at one point, I asked the deputies to handcuff me to the rails of the bed because I was afraid I would rip my eyes out. I was really acting up. And he had known me well enough for a few months. He didn't want to do that. He says, "Oh, come on, Ed, that's calling me by my first name." He says, "That's not really necessary, is it?" And I said, "Man, you better put them on, or I'm going to tear that goddamn gun belt off of you and blast you. I might beat you to death with it." So he comes over with the cuffs. He's a little offended by that. So he comes over with the cuffs. He starts to put them on my wrist, and I just went through some kind of incredible convulsion. I just yanked him clear across the bed, you know, because I was in and out and yanking like this. And he had the other hand cuffed already. He's putting cuff on here, and I yanked him across the bed, and zing, off he goes. He's hanging onto this handcuff. And at that point, he cuffed me up real quick, finish. I already had leg irons down at the foot of the bed. And I just was yanking those rails up and down with my wrists, and that's very painful with handcuffs on. You know, these stainless steel rails. I was just up and down, yanking them and trying to pull them in. And we went like that for a few hours, and finally they said, "We got to get him back to jail. He's not going to change in the near future."
In general, people see serial killers as one category, but there are actually 7 different types of serial killers. Would you care
Several
to...
or 7?
No, several.
Several types.
Would you care to explain us what types of different serial killers?
To be honest with you, I couldn't really tell you. Because the categorization process, as you know, is back east with the behavioral sciences unit. When I was locked up originally, they called it mass murderer. Anybody who killed more than 2 or 3 people was a mass murderer. And whether it was all at one place or over an extended period of time. And then in the early 80s, they came up with this differentiation called serial killing, which was living 2 lives, basically. If one orients to the negative side of that living, he would say this person was living a cover life that was wrapped around doing those crimes, and which couldn't be very realistic. Someone doesn't live their life to murder people. Their life was not set for that from birth. From my point of view, what I saw was there was a great hole in my life. There was
if you actually read about this dude, to Ricky's point here, he can really fool you with his demeanor, but he's one of the most sadistic bastards I've ever actually read about. You know, today, you know, getting prepared for this, which I'd already knew a little bit about the story, but really getting into the details of what he did. Again, it's the worst of the worst. I mean, it's murder, necrophilia, dismembering the body, horrible person. And then again, you kind of get taken out of that just for a second, because you're watching this interview. He's coming off, not only is he being polite, but he's also very smart. The way he's coming off with the words he's using, he's insanely intellectual. And he kind of brings you into a false sense of safety. I mean, and then the story he's telling here with the police officer, and again, the police officer, I'm sure that they've been buddying around. He hadn't really seen a crazy side of Ed Kemper yet, right? And he's actually telling him, "Hey, you better get these cuffs on me or I'm going to fucking go crazy here." It's a unique thing. This dude's brain is fucking broken, first of all, along with a lot of other people that are labeled as serial killers. But again, it's unique in the way that he presents the inner thoughts that's literally pouring out of him in real time. That is what's so fucking unique about Ed Kemper. Garbage can, piece of shit, still alive even. Again, somebody asked that earlier. The last photo I could find was from 2020 of this guy, but I mean, and again, even you read about him in through prison, you know, model prisoner. I think he's only had one infraction in all of these years since 73. It's a different one, man. It's weird. But again, it's invaluable information is coming through that we can all learn about. I mean, again, anybody that actually watched Mindhunters and see how he just said there, they actually came up with the term serial killer in the early 80s. Okay, well after we knew that serial killers were active in what they were doing, they were still calling them mass murderers at one point. So
there's a lot missing from my life, and it didn't necessarily mean feelings. It meant I had walled off this emptiness in my life. Okay, I had an upbringing that was some have called dysfunctional. Okay, parents divorced when I was young. My mother started drinking heavily. She was working to raise 3 kids. We were not being cooperative about it. She drank more. She punished us harder, probably out of desperation. So character sets were being developed at that point. Rather than me going to Boy Scouts and getting achievement badges, I was not going to Boy Scouts and not getting achievement badges. I was finding devious ways to get around the rules of the home. Because the whole home life, I watched it deteriorate from what typical kids on the block were doing to coming home from school that I didn't like anyway. And ironically, I have a high IQ. I didn't know that till I was locked up the first time for murder. I always thought I was a little missing up here, a little short. Because I was always called stupid, I was called slow, don't you think when you do things? That was the problem. I wasn't thinking when I did things. I just did by rote, I did by memory, I did by example. And I had absolutely no faith in myself at all. I had no interaction going on in my own mind. I was not a thinker. I was not an individual. I had a teacher in the 9th grade who changed all that. He made me think. He would not tolerate my not thinking. He was an art teacher. And it was a devastating experience for me because there were gears in my head that were just rusty and they were barely moving or not at all. And that's when I found out that's what the state of my mind's functioning was. I didn't think. To the point of he points at a stapler on his desk and says, "What does that say?" And I looked at it and I said, "Silver line." He says, "Look again." And he's raving at me. And I look and it said swing line. All I had to do was look at it and read it. But I glanced at it and threw it back at him out of panic. So he made me think, and he gave me puzzles to work out in school in my class where I had to resolve these to continue on with the class. I had to think. I had to use abstracts. And after that started, that became fascinating to me, so I got more and more involved in thinking and about my surroundings and things like that, but by then I was locked up.
But what was your relationship with your sister?
Which one? I have 2.
Yes, the one you was playing strange games of death with her, with one of your sisters.
My younger sister, yeah. My older sister was 5 years older than me, so she was off with her friends and in a distant relationship. My younger sister's 2 years younger, and I developed some morbid games. My life had started going that way at about 8. We lived in a house where there was a basement. Some people think there was a trap door on that basement. That's not so. That was a different house. It was a walk-in basement, but it was in Montana. It was a full basement, had granite walls, hewn wood floorboards, and it looked like some old dungeon out of a castle or something. I was 8 years old, 7 and a half, 8 years old, and then I was very susceptible. My imagination was very livid. And there was an old furnace in the basement that had been converted from burning coal to burning coal and wood to burning gas. And that was, it had a central heating system with your typical radiators. And if you've ever lived in a home like that, you know the binging, the clang, the pop, the rattles, the weird sounds in the night that can be spooky to a kid. Well, at a certain time of the evening, the family left the center room, the living room of the house. My mother and my sisters, or my sisters themselves, would go up to bed upstairs, where I used to go to bed, upstairs. I had to go down to the basement. And an 8-year-old child had a tough time differentiating the reason in that. Why am I going to the basement? I'm going to hell, they're going to heaven. Earth is the living room. I'm going down to deal with demons and monsters and ghosts and all the things that scare me. They don't have to. There's a house with 3 women and 1 male, 1 boy, me. And I got a little defensive. I'm saying, gee, this is kind of ganging up. My older sister had a basement bedroom, okay, and it was a storage room that was about 18 feet wide and 35 feet long, okay, and it was a concrete room, no windows. And it had a light bulb over a big industrial iron sink, you know, like a laundry sink, and had a pull string on the light. The bed was in the opposite corner of the room. It was a double bed, a single bed. And I had a dresser halfway. I had a couple of carpets thrown on the floor, old carpets, and there's a lot of storage stuff along the wall. And I was there about 6 months in that room. And I developed some very, very particular and articulate rituals that I felt I had to go through to protect myself. I was, again, it's embarrassing. I was a youngster, and if you can imagine me going down a staircase of rough-hewn wood, there's no guardrail, so one step wrong and you're off into this black pit. I turn on the light, it's a little circular light switch, and a single naked bulb goes on down at the bottom of these stairs, okay? So I turn that light on, I open the door, I close the door because my mother complains of the cold coming in from the basement. I go down the stairs, I get to the bottom, I do a 180-degree turn, and I walk the full length of the house on this floor with these pipes rattling and wheezing and banging over my head. It's pitch black ahead of me, and the only light is behind me hanging down from the ceiling. I'm now cut off from the house, cut off from them. I walk this full length into the darkness, from this gradients of light into complete darkness, groping around.
I gotta hear that. I want to hear Bob go, she. That was the best meme for the longest time. Also, those beers are still hanging out there. Y'all getting satisfying pours for days. Shit. She.
I'm in the dark. I do about a 45-degree angle when I get to the end. And I pull the string and it lights up this end. And then I'm supposed to walk all the way back to the other end, turn that light off, and now walk toward the light from the dark. And I've got this horrible terror going on inside of me. And this is every night. This is every day because it's pitch black down there, no windows. She didn't intend all of this. And when I sniveled about it, when I complained and I cried about it, I got smacked in the head. You know, what's the matter with you? Quit being such a wimp. And she, you know, she was trying to solve a problem. She had not enough room upstairs to where I didn't have to share a bedroom with a sister. I'm 8 years old. I need to go to the basement.
And what were those morbid games that you played with your sister?
Okay. Well, the one I remember someone talking about in a book was one that was playing gas chamber or electric chair or something. And we had this big old overstuffed chair up in my room. And it was not just my sister and I, it was my sister and I and a friend, a close friend. We got into all these games. We got into one game where we'd roll up in a rug and a person would try to get out.
Serial station would be fucking dope, Missy.
It was just like a large throw rug. And it was, I guess, what fascinated us individually about it is it was a completely, it broke up the monotony, I guess, of what we were doing. Didn't have a lot of toys to play with. We got bored with those pretty quickly. So we looked for things to do. You roll up in the rug and you try to get out, and the other two would leave the room, and we see who could get out fastest. You know, you try to work your way out sideways or scoot out the end of it or whatever. And we went from that to being tied in this overstuffed chair with cord or something, or pieces of sheet or sash or something. And we went through this process. I guess that's back in 1960 when Carol Chessman was executed down in California. We're up in Montana. And so I got, there's a lot of media coverage on that because he was an author, he'd written books, they're trying to save his life, he'd not killed anybody, why are they executing him? And so that's, I think, where the fascination with that came in, that gas chamber effect. And I think it overly fascinated some people in relation to this case because it seemed so obvious a piece, you know. I'm preparing my mindset for doing deathly kind of things.
Another obvious piece would actually be, I don't know if the story is true, that you beheaded one of your sister's doll and cut off the hands of the doll.
It's interesting you bring that up. I had a cap gun It was by Mattel, right? Fanner 50, it was a very fancy cap gun. I got it in New York City. I went there for one summer with a cousin. And when I came back, my sister was kind of jealous, my little sister. For years, I never really put any value on what happened. Tried to, you know, figure out beyond the obvious what happened in this scenario. But I've since found it plausible to believe that when she was angry or jealous about something, she would fuel her attitude toward resolving something. She hated that cap gun because it came between us as brother and sister. It was something I had that she didn't have. That trip represented something she really wanted, she didn't get, and I did. But very soon after getting back from that trip, she got in an argument with me. It was over something really petty. She got really outraged. She picked up that cap pistol. I said, "Don't throw that." And she threw it right at me. Wham, hard. It hit the floor and my toe, and it hurt bad. But it broke the gun, the inner mechanism. It wouldn't work after that. I picked it up. I found that out. It wouldn't cock and pull the trigger anymore. And that really outraged me. So I said, "So you want to play like that, huh?" So I go running into her room. She says, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" She's shrieking and chasing me, right? So I run into her room and I grab up her Barbie doll. It was the one fancy doll she had, the Barbie doll. Everybody has one, right? She had a pair of sewing scissors sitting there and a sewing machine, a sewing kit. I grabbed the scissors out. The head didn't decapitate, it pops off. So I popped that off. I said, "Well, that's going to go right back on. That's no damage." So I took the scissors and I cut the hands off the doll. I said, "Here, now you got a toy that doesn't work too good. I got a toy that doesn't work too good." That was my attitude. It wasn't quite just me going and, dismembering her doll. Again, I think that's a little bit too quick an assignation. It's not me to judge these professionals, but when they look at me here on Monday morning after the football game and they say, "Gee, here's all these little parts of the puzzle," oh, this indicates what he was going to do. And if that's the case, I want to know about the teenage kid or the preteen kids and the puberty, the pre and post-puberty kids. They're going through these raging moods and attitudes that go out and kill neighborhood cats. They hang them up from a telephone pole or hang them up from a tree, shoot them full of arrows and set fire to them. I was reading about that in Dear Abby. Where are those children today? Are they serial killers? Or are they police chiefs and mayors and aldermen and assemblymen? But I'm saying there are periods when kids go through very violent development into, potentially violent. They break things, they steal things, they lie. They go through these changes.
Oh, Missy Mayhem going to roll through real quick and give out a membership. And who's going to get that? None other than Adam Malone, who made it over from Twitter. Adam Malone, welcome to membership here at Publicly Buzzed, the J-Buzz Nation, brother. First of all, give out them beers, crack open one, look at those satisfying pours, and then we'll give you a little bit of this. Yeah, baby.
Give me the loot. Give me the loot.
I'm a bad, bad man. I'm going to give you one more satisfying pour. Hold on, forgot to crack it first. There it is. There it is. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Boom. Thank y'all so much. We'll give you one of these too, for good measure. A little Jim Leahy here.
I'm sober enough to know what I'm doing, and I'm drunk enough to really enjoy doing it.
Love it. And give out them beers, everybody. Make sure you're filling up the chat with the brewskis. Boom, boom, boom. Thank you all for hanging out here tonight. I appreciate the hell out of it. We'll go here for a little bit longer. We're having a good time here. I'm glad that everybody has decided to come through and chill out with Publicly Buzzed here tonight. Cat K, hey, how you doing? Thank you for coming through as well. Anybody that's not subbed up here at Publicly Buzzed, please do so. Hit the three little dots on the side. Make sure all notifications are turned on so you don't miss anything that I drop in the community when we go live and when we post videos, which is pretty freaking often. Make sure you're following the Shaming of Jay as well. My brother from another mother. Make sure you're following Bob Mata, the Defense Diaries. Make sure you're checking out his podcast. We have an awesome group growing here, and appreciate the hell out of it. And we got, if you haven't liked this yet, please do that as well. That helps get us into the algorithm here on the evil old YouTube. But yeah, we'll watch a little bit more here real quick. I'm gonna see a man about probably nothing real quick as well, and hell yeah, keep this bad boy rolling.
I've had these people, one or two doctors in particular who I won't go into, who very casually just slapped all these assignations on there and said, well, of course, if you run into a kid that's doing this kind of thing, you've got a developing serial killer, you better put him in treatment real quick and save his life, right? To a point, I agree with them that someone who's acting out and has a dysfunctional childhood or has just gone through a dysfunctional childhood and hasn't gotten violent yet, or is heading toward that direction. Passive-aggressive. Violence was the last thing I exhibited, and then it was murderous violence. Okay? So sure, there's a lot of value in getting youngsters like that help to where they can find themselves and they can find value in themselves and they can find value in interacting with others, and they go in a different direction than what I did. But to just sit there and casually lay these, I guess that bothers my ego. I don't know, that these people have not worked with me year after year. The psychiatrists and psychologists I deal with are in a prison setting. They're there 8 hours a day. They have to deal with me every day. If I am their patient and I screw up, they can kiss their job and goodbye. I mean, they're going to be a lot of hell on them for not seeing this in advance and saying, oh, we should lock him up. He might be violent, right? And any psych out there, any professional out there is going to tell you, I think, that if they are going into my mind, into my past, into my feelings, that there's a potential there for acting out or getting uncontrolled or being violent, because they're stripping away the veneer of my civilization. They're stripping away the veneer of the protections of myself. And there's a lot of things that can come jumping out of there. And then to walk out of that therapy session into this kind of a setting, prison, where it's very violent, it's very aggressive, it's a distilled kind of medium that you might encounter on a street corner somewhere.
Last time Bob was on here, he said, he's like, you guys don't have a bong emoji, and we have the joint. That right there is a joint that I'm popping up right there. But we did have a bong emoji, but YouTube took that away from us. They let me have it for a little while. Maybe if I could like manipulate it a little bit, it could work, because also, you see that joint right there, how that looks? Literally, I did the exact same thing, except it was a blunt, so it was brown, and they didn't let that go by. Literally the only difference. And then it was hilarious. Bob's like, that sounds racist. And I think he's right. I think that does sound racist. It's bullshit.
Street corner thug, a street corner punk, or the alleyway where someone is going to take terrible advantage of you or put you in a terrible situation that you may have to be violent to get out of. That's this main line. I mean, that's where all these guys go. And I'm going to walk out of a therapy session where this man has been peeling my mind, so to speak, and getting into my psyche and my soul and finding out what makes me tick, or trying to help put me back together, or help try to put me together for the first time. And then I'm going to walk out of that into this medium. That's not very conducive to good health. I'm aware of that going into the situation, so I'm twice as leery as the doctor is. But unfortunately, he's got all of these mindsets and these theories and these books he's read and that he's trained under. And I guess what has happened in my life kind of jumps out of the book a few chapters ahead. And the way I've experienced it, the psychs don't want to go that far. They don't want to come out there and work the pages back into the book so that I fit in there too, or my kind of criminal fits into there too. They kind of just stand on the edge of the book, and they put on their feathers and they put on their paint and they get their rattles, and then they hop around and they go into the witch doctor routine. And that I resent, and unfortunately so do they. When they have to put on their rattles and put their crosses up and say, ah, he's evil, get him away from us. He'll take advantage of us and he'll rape, pillage, and burn, right? So guess what? That's where I'm on the cutting edge of humanity. I find out now, and it doesn't matter that I find this out because I've already been cast out by society. So any things I find out or discover, or even beautiful little things I discover about the ability of the human spirit to heal itself, just to an extent enough where he can make friendships, he can form bonds, he can cry.
You know, that might be a good idea. I see people in the chat saying maybe like a crafted, bong, or like maybe it, because oftentimes you find bongs that look like different animals, right? Or maybe we could do like a squid or an octopus bong, an alien bong, but make sure maybe there's a little bit of smoke creeping out of it. There's a way around it. There's a hack. We're gonna hack it.
When someone dies of AIDS, or he can feel bad when a friend gets injured or killed by someone else. See what I'm saying? Or grows old and dies, unable to go back out to the streets because they won't let him out early and he's dying. That kind of thing. And the feeling that develops, it can develop hard.
Yeah, he enjoys being the smartest guy in the room as well, right? Like, he probably gets off on that. and also being a large individual, that kind of goes back to Rex Heuermann, right? I keep going back to the one story that he told, that he didn't tell, a police officer, a former police officer told. They had an interaction with him earlier in the month of July, 2 weeks before he actually got caught, where they were on the subway together, and basically they had some kind of interaction where they got in an argument, got in a little bit of a tiff, and Rex Heuermann, even though it kind of subsided on the actual subway or on the train, he got off, and when he was going up the steps, Rex Heuermann got ahead of him, and he was waiting for him at the top of the steps, and then continued to debate him and have the altercation. So yeah, just to kind of compare that, again, I'm thinking probably Kemper's a lot smarter than Heuermann intellectually, just by the actual IQ that we know about. But being that large and having like that advantage on somebody, and plus being smarter, I mean, we know people like that in real life, but he has the double dose here. Kemper does.
Wicked feelings, it can develop some very tender and some very sad.
You win. Bob wins. I'm going to somehow craft an Ed Kemper bong. Holy shit.
Feelings. And then you're trying to deal with the widow
what the
of
hell?
that man through the mail, the very restrictive mail procedures we have here. See, we're not supposed to co-correspond across these lattices of relationship.
Got to make it somehow to be like a big fuck you to him, though.
It's tough to deal with, but
Mandy thought the joint was a tornado. I get it. I mean, it looks like a little tornado also. Look at that thing. No, that's a J, baby. That's a J.
What? That's my world now. That's what
Spliff
allows
action.
me to be sane. Let's call it quote unquote sane. That's what allows me to function as a human being, is not doing time with these incredible constraints that I've caused to be on me, right? It's living my life, right, with the limitations that I've caused to happen. Living my life is different than doing time, because then there's the ability to work into that picture positive things, giving things back, like working in the Blind Project, the Volunteers of Vacaville, where we read books onto tape for the blind all over the United States and sometimes in foreign countries. I participated in that program for the last 14 years. I started out with very, very little involvement, reading books, working on beat baseballs for blind sports, doing some clerk work, working on their newsletter.
Yeah, speaking of narcissistic, BTK, right? The Rex Heuermann stuff. Hate to keep going back to that. What do we see? A letter got written out saying he's just like me, because he was getting offended, right? Getting offended that somebody else's name is getting out there. At the end of the day, these fuck faces, it's all about control. It's all about the manipulation, and it's the way all of them think. They all just want power and control, man. And again, they're picking people that are weaker and smaller than them for a reason. They're fucking gigantic. In a lot of cases, including Casey, they're larger individuals who are picking smaller people and then putting their will on that person and then snuffing them out, actually killing them and taking them off this fucking planet. They're the worst types of literal human beings walking this earth. And how many others are fucking just randomly out there? To his point, this is 1991 and he was saying possibly 100, right? It'd be impossible to actually say or get a number. I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent there, but still.
Jobs in there, become the reader supervisor, teaching guys how to read the books onto tape. And all the way up to the point where I became the inmate coordinator, which is the lead man there. It's the guy that's in charge of making sure everything works right all the time. And when I first went into that activity, they were saying there were things I could never do. To ask you a question about your interview, did you see a trophy case when you came in?
Yes.
Out in the foyer, there's a trophy case. Take a look at it. There's several trophies in there, and a couple of them have my name on them. And the reason is, I'm asking you that, there's a big 40-inch trophy in there. It's a triple-tier trophy, very impressive looking. That's the Volunteer of the Year award, okay? And it has a little speech on the front of it.
You're forgiven. Volunteer of the Year award. Forgiven. Let's get out of here. What are we doing?
On a brass plaque that says, this award is given to the person who most epitomizes what they stand for. You know, the help, the service to the handicapped, visually impaired. And this is a very time-honored award. Okay, they've been in existence now for 31 years. I've been in that group for 14 of those years. And one of the first couple of years I was there, I used to like, the trophy case used to be in the Blind Project, okay? And I used to walk up and I'd look at that trophy, and I'd never had a trophy in my life. I'd never had a ribbon, I'd never had a plaque, none of that stuff. I'd never tried for it. And
Well, you had the Junior Chamber of Commerce.
okay, yeah.
From
Actually,
Atascadero.
I forgot. They don't call that though.
Oh, yeah.
They had to get rid of that name because the Chamber of Commerce took offense to that. JCs. Yeah, United States JCs. And at one point was the youngest JC in America because I was 19 when I was put in as an associate member who couldn't vote. And by the time I was 20, I was on the board of directors. Yeah, okay. No trophies, no plaques, anything like that. I got some certificates. But that was, again, that was in the institution. That's where I'm learning to achieve. I developed a better image of self and those around me, and I really started cooking. I started doing things. Real positive. I felt good about it. And that continued on to the streets. I went to the JCs on the streets, but as my relationship, I was paroled to my mother, okay? What these experts don't notice in the picture, I haven't seen it in writing anywhere, it could be somewhere, that when I was 14 years old, I ran away from my mother. They mention that. But if you look at it in the overall picture, why did I run away? I wanted to be with my father. That's a very topical approach to it. I wanted to get away from my mother because I was dreaming, thinking, fantasizing murder all day long. I couldn't get it out of my head. She and I couldn't battle with her because I was very intimidated by her. She's 6 feet tall, she weighs 2 1/4, 225 pounds. She's not a fat woman, she's just this great big woman who I was terrified of. She had verbal capabilities you wouldn't believe. I used to watch her field strip grown men in emotional little contests. And when they get to a point where they wanted to smack her, then she started attacking them on beating women. Oh, slap the woman around, you know. And then she'd toy with them on that. And I'd watch these guys dance around the room having fits, knocking out windows, punch a hole in the door, and stomp off. And she could control people like that. I'm sitting there watching that in awe from the one point of view and in terror from the other. I grew up with this stuff. She did that to my dad when they were always battling before the divorce. I'm not trying to put on her what happened to the girls or to her. But I'm saying there was a lot of psychological involvement there.
Did you feel early on?
I got it in the legs. One time I turned around shrieking and she hit me in the mouth and the little keeper on the clasp flew off, little silver buckle thing. And she smacked me. This thing breaks off on my mouth, right? As she hits me across the face with this belt and says, "Shut up, the neighbors are going to think I'm beating you." I'm looking at her, what? You know? I'm not supposed to cry out, which is a natural reaction to these great red welts that are going on me. I was a little shit. I got rude downstairs. She took me upstairs and beat the hell out of me. I would like to think it was a better part of my character that was resisting this kind of pressure to fit into some mold that she had the image of as being the good little kid. I'll be damned if I'm going to be that good little kid. I'm getting the hell beat out of me for not being that little kid. I got I don't know what you call it, resistant to it. But again, it's not in manly ways or in prideful ways. It was sneaky little devious ways. I'd get around that. And one of the ways was she won't give me an allowance. I'll take money out of her purse. I never robbed her, took all of it. I'd take a dime here, a quarter there, 15 cents there, 50 cents here. She comes in drunk at night. She's not going to know how much change she has. So to rebound on that, she started counting her money at all kinds of odd times to keep on top of me. And it was like a game we played for years. At the age of 13, she finally lets me go visit my father, okay, down in LA, where I was born. I'm in Montana where she was born. I don't like Montana. It's cold in the winter, it's hot in the summer, it's miserable, and the people up there are nice people, but hey, they're not my people. That's what I'm saying now. I wasn't viewing or voicing those things then. I was feeling them, but I didn't know how to put them into words. So I finally get to come down and see my dad again, down in LA, all right, 1 month. I never touched her purse again. That scared her. That really bothered her because she'd beat me halfway senseless with that belt, trying to impress, and in terror tactics. Okay, we're going to eat dinner and I'm going to beat your ass afterwards, you know, so I could think about it for a half hour. Or after some little thing she's doing. And she tried psychological tactics. She tried, I'm going to put you in an orphanage, I'm going to disavow you, and none of that shit worked. So I go see my dad for 30 days. And my
Chat kills me. I missed the fart. Apparently there's an Ed Kemper fart that I missed here.
stepbrother and I, we go out and mow lawns. We say, gee, Dad, you're going out to dinner tonight. Can we go someplace and eat? And he says, sure. He'd give us a few dollars. We'd go down.
We don't do the bingo here, but Ed Kemper farts was not on the bingo card for the night, guys.
To some little diner down the street. He treated us like little men, like he wanted to be treated by he came from a matriarchal household too. I guess if you know how that stuff runs in families, right? Matriarchal household, the son goes out and finds a mother image and marries her. Well, I didn't know all this stuff back then. It would have made a lot more sense, right? But I got this domineering grandmother on my father's side. I got this domineering grandmother on my mother's side who died before I was born, but now she's reincarnated in my mother and her sister, my aunt. They're two very domineering, very aggressive, very successful women. Okay, so these two women are in terrible conflict with each other, competition, and they didn't get along at all. All right, so I'm in the middle of that, trying to find my way, and I go stay with my dad, and I can only say he reflected back on his childhood and said, gee, I wish I'd been treated this way. So that's how he treated me and my stepbrother, and we responded to that. We'd go, if we needed spending money, we would go out and we'd do tasks around the neighborhood, clean yards, rake this, mow that, water the flowers, and make a few dollars, and we'd have some fun. Okay, and then sometimes he'd ask us to do something. We'd do it because he was always fair with us, and kind, and he was generous with us. So 30 days of doing this opened up whole new feelings in me that I'd never had before. And I wish I'd had more experience with my father growing up so I could orient more to being tall around not tall peers. There was I call it an artificial paranoia that developed. Well, I walk into a room, everybody stops and looks at me because I'm the tallest guy they've seen or the tallest guy in the room. They stop and they look. And ironically, the average or short guy is sitting over there looking at me with a great resentment because he wants that attention. I've got it. He thinks it's really neat because he's looking at it from a vicarious position. He doesn't realize that there's thorny sides to that attention. I don't want that attention. I want to just blend into the room. I just want to kind of sidle in. So I see two
I think
kinds
he's just talking, Megsy. Honestly, yeah. I think once he started rolling, he never really stopped. Yeah, I think I'm going to pause her up there, and we'll probably finish this up probably next Tuesday, honestly. Because, Thursday night, Dan will be back on here. We'll be doing something for a show. I've got something planned and something in mind. I'm not going to expose that yet. You got to keep an eye on not only Twitter, but on the community posts from YouTube. And then Friday night, of course, Feral Friday. Still working on that show as well. Hopefully we can have a banger for you. And then we'll come back around for Sunday morning, of course, Murder Church, 9 a.m. Eastern Time as we go into week 11. Can you believe that? Week 11 of the Jeffrey Dahmer insanity trial. But yeah, we will revisit this again in a week and finish this bad boy up. I don't think that he was actually asked anything. If he was asked maybe one question, he never stopped fucking talking. Again, narcissistic, self-absorbed, egomaniac, piece of fucking trash. Interesting though, very interesting and different in a lot of ways, but at the end of the day, absolutely horrible. And the guy's still alive is what's crazy. He wanted to die. They don't have the death penalty in California, so he will be there rotting. Again, I know Bob, says that is the worst thing you could possibly have. You're trapped there and you're literally rotting to death, right? Until the day you fucking stop breathing. You're trapped inside of that cell. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy how long it's been. He went in jail in 73, prison in 73, and good Lord. It's a long ass time. Yeah, or his early 20s. So his entire adult life basically has been in prison. But yeah, we will revisit this in about a week. Yeah, we got up a lot of likes. Everybody hanging out. Appreciate it. Bob, thank you for coming through here, brother. I'll be talking to you as well soon. Everybody, thank you all so much. Keeping this fucking chat rolling. The best. What a great live stream. Again, Dan will be joining me. He'll be back on Thursday, of course. Everybody, thank you all so much. Just going back through here, please get that GIF of me doing the zipline Kalen. I'll be looking for that in Discord. Join Discord if you aren't in Discord, folks. I'm sure Mandy has already popped the link in the comments. If not, I will pop one in there right now as well. I'm sure she has, though. Follow Bob on Twitter. Follow Bob on, if you're listening to Defense Diaries, the actual podcast, make sure you're, visiting defensediaries.com. Check out Bob's merch. The Shaming of Jay, streaming every damn day, killing the game right now. Almost to 5K subs. We have a contest going on as well on Twitter. As soon as I reach 1,000 followers on Twitter, I'm getting close. I got about 250 left to get there. And as soon as he gets to 5K, I think he's around the same number. We will be releasing some very special stickers to some people that are retweeting this tweet. But yeah, I need to get that tweet on standby actually so I can start popping that in. I'm not going to go hunting for it right now. And I was actually just got, again, out of Twitter jail. Fuck you, Elon Musk. What the hell's going on out here? Putting me in jail for standing up for my brother from bullshit lies, provable bullshit lies. Hell yeah, someone just popped in the Discord right now in real time. Love to see it. Love to see it. All right, guys. Anybody that follows me, yeah, thank you, Bob. Yeah, see, I'm trying to get Bob and Jay on for Friday. So Bob's going to let me know if he can do that. And if he can, that's going to be a dank-ass show. That's going to be good as fuck. You're going to want to be tuning in for Feral Friday. But either way, you're going to be wanting to tune in. And we will get him back, even if he can't do this Friday. We're going to get him soon. And I like to put Bob on Feral Friday because that's when we can get a little bit looser. We can get a little bit wilder. We don't have to work on Saturday. So, yeah, X-Jail. I was in X-Jail. Son of a bitch. If that's what's coming down the pike, then I'm not here for it, okay? I've been standing up for Twitter and X, and I still like it. The reach and the connections and the networking on Twitter is absolutely unbelievable. I wouldn't know Bob, I wouldn't know Jay, I wouldn't know so many people, probably a lot of you folks, if it wasn't for Twitter or X or whatever the fuck you want to call it. All new members, thank you so much. J-Buzz Nation, let's go. J-Buzz Diaries, let's go, baby. That's what this Friday will be, if we can pull it off. I love you all. Thank you all so much. Jamie, thank you for modding. Mandy, Mountain Mama, I love you guys. Thank you all so much. Yeah, one thing I suck at doing, as everyone knows, is actually ending these things. I just keep rambling and rambling, but I'm actually going to do it. Thursday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. I will see you folks then. Let's go.
See, we shoot them up bang bang over here. We not scared of they motherfucking ass.